Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart. And it's also the name of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a magnificent Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. This house wasn't magnificent over the weekend. We had stomach bugs. We had the flu. There are a lot of things going on in this house. But the sickness in the Joy family, perhaps, was our sacrifice to the football gods. As your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles absolutely mollywopped the Washington Commanders, decimated the Washington Commanders, destroyed and left very little for the vultures to pick at when it was all said and done of the Washington Commanders. They are a nice team, a good team, a team that had significant key injuries on both lines. And we said on the show on Friday, it was going to be a double-digit point win. Now, I think I said 34-26 on the show, but then I revised it on Sunday to 38-26. So we're just going to say 38-26 was the score. But I expected a double-digit win. I did not expect it to come in the fashion that it did. And I certainly didn't expect for the Eagles to rush for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, Booker T, not 6, but 7 touchdowns in the game, and saw a stat, and I still can't believe it's true. And I meant to fact check it, but friends, like there can't be any truth to this, right? The Eagles rushed for 7 touchdowns on Sunday. And I believe, oh boy, based on what I'm seeing, yeah, that's more. That is, in fact, more than the Dallas Cowboys had in the entire regular season. Oh, no. Oh, no. Friends, that's bad. The Eagles rushed in one day against the Washington Commanders. The Eagles rushed for 7 touchdowns in one game, the NFC Championship game, the final step before punching your ticket to New Orleans to play in Super Bowl 59. The Eagles rushed for 7 touchdowns in one game, which is one more than the Dallas Cowboys ran this season. In the regular season, they had 17 games, and Dallas only rushed for 6 in 17 games, and the Eagles did 7 in 1, which of course is why Dallas subsequently went and elevated Brian Schottenheimer to be the head coach of the team. And as Jerry said, hey, he's always been an assistant coach, but he won't be known as that anymore. He'll be known as head coach. What the hell's going on at Dallas? Doesn't matter. Friends, I have to tell you, I told you on Friday. I think I said it last Wednesday. I might have even said it last Monday. Wild division games can freak me out a little bit. See Phillies, Mets. There's something significantly different about this Eagles team. Now, I compared that as like a 1-for-1, but then I had the caveat. There's a winning DNA with this team that, in fairness, you can be upset about it, I don't think the Phillies have possessed. Washington is a good team. Jaden Daniels is a really good rookie quarterback. They have some weapons on that team. Everybody still loves Zach Ertz. Terry McLaurin, I said, was going to pop them at least one time, find the end zone. Like, they're a good team, and they should be really proud. And this isn't like a condescending, like, oh, you should really be so proud of yourself. Good job there, little fella. They should be proud. It was a hell of a run. They took out the number 1 seed Detroit Lions in Detroit. Like, they're a good team, and Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a division rivalry in the NFC East, it's those two teams. The Giants are nowhere close. The Cowboys are an absolute mess. It'll probably be Eagles Commanders again next year, fighting for that NFC East crown. And again, good on them. Legitimately good on the Commanders for getting the job done, at least to get to the NFC Championship. But eventually, when you get to that moment, and when you get to that final step with the opportunity to punch your ticket to the Super Bowl, the Eagles punched it into the end zone 7 times on the ground. And if you were one of these people, and you remember, I've been pretty clear about like where I stand on Jalen Hurts. If you were looking for a game to feel any better about Jalen Hurts, he delivered it on Sunday. 20 of 28 for 246 yards and a touchdown. He made big throws in key moments. Devontae Smith had that beautiful reception on the sideline where he's already kind of digging the Tootsie Toes in as he's pulling it in. You get A.J. Brown on that beautiful fourth down. 4th and 5 is 14-12 in the first half. Very close. Commanders making you feel just a little bit uneasy. And Jalen Hurts unleashes a dart down the left sideline to A.J. Brown, who picks up big yardage on a 4th and 5. It is a ballsy call. It is a gutsy call. It is certainly one that would have received plenty of criticism if they had gone on to lose that game. But they didn't. And sometimes those big ballsy moments are the things that ultimately give you the momentum and give you the ability to put up what is eventually a lopsided final score. I don't think anybody who watched that game felt like, oh yeah, that was definitely a 32-point win. I don't think so. I mean, this isn't to Chris Sims it like last week when he said, well, if you take out the turnovers and you take out the Saquon Barkley runs and the one by Jalen Hurts, the Rams won most of the plays in that game. It's not that. It's not Micah Parsons saying, well, if you took the scoreboard out of it, we played a pretty tight game. Not that. It's not that either. This is a situation where, like, the score did get out of hand, but I think for the most part, we all kind of still felt not agita. It wasn't the same kind of uneasiness that we had against the Rams, especially late in that Rams game. But there were moments in this game where you're like, don't let the young stud quarterback hang around. Don't let this Commanders team that you've now played twice this season, you're in the midst of the third game. Don't let that team back in the game. And my big thing, and I've said it to you guys for a while, and it's very basic. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm not giving you insight that you don't already know, but it's the thing that I've said consistently, and it's one of those things that takes a good team and makes them a great team, and it makes a great team a Super Bowl winning team. Forcing turnovers is huge. This defense has gotten significantly better at it as the regular season wound down and we've gotten into the postseason. They are an opportunistic bunch. They force multiple fumbles again. Quinyon Mitchell skies up, pulls down his second career interception, both of which have come in the postseason. How's that for a rookie? Not so bad. They force the turnovers, and the thing that takes you from being, in my mind, not just a Super Bowl contending team, but what in many minds will be a Super Bowl favorite is capitalizing on those turnovers and scoring points. And the Eagles did that. The Eagles did that significantly and wonderfully on Sunday, finding the end zone multiple times after the defense forced a turnover. Sensational stuff. There aren't a lot of negatives to take away from this game. The only negative maybe is you think on the injury front, Cam Jurgens was active, didn't start. Landon Dickerson took his spot. There were a couple of timing issues, no big deal. Dickerson ends up with a knee brace, ends up kind of limping around a bit. That would be a massive loss. Good news, you have 2 weeks to try to get him healthy, to try to hopefully get Cam Jurgens back fixed or at least workable. Those guys are warriors. That's the only real negative you could take away is just, all right, or it's not even a negative. It's just like the only uneasiness that you really take coming out of that game is, will the offensive line be able to hold up? They've been very lucky that they've remained mostly healthy, that the guys who've come in to fill in different spells have played very well. They got good play out of Steen. They got good play out of Dickerson at center. Cam Jurgens comes in, kind of battles the whole game. Looked like he wanted to get in that game the entire time. Eventually does get in there. He said post-game that it all just comes down to fighting for one another. It's a close locker room, and that's what it's all about. You want to get out there and battle for the people that you're going to war with every week. Now, I know there are a ton of comments. I'm going to get to as many of them as I can. This is not, by any means, a plug for anybody to do this because you don't have to. But probably from now until the Super Bowl, I expect there will be many people in the comments. I will try to get to as many of these as I can. Super chats are now available on the Russ Joy Show, which you do not have to do. But if you feel so inclined to essentially help with the operating expense of the show, which is putting the show out there, that's about it. There aren't that many other expenses. I absorb the cost of everything else. But if you want to support the show, super chat, help a guy out, but you don't have to. But if you do, I'll pull your comment up for sure. I'll get to it priority. Otherwise, I'm going to get to as many of these as I can. I have some other takeaways, some other insight from the game. But I have to tell you, this was a game that you should feel unbelievably confident. Saquon Barkley, the first touch of the game, first touch. He blows open a massive touchdown, breaks multiple tackles, has a beautiful little pirouette on the sideline to get himself back centrally and win a foot race. And you kind of bookend that with the end of the game where Will Shipley almost breaks open a massive touchdown run. I mean, it's still a significant pickup. But like Will Shipley almost bookends the game perfectly. Huge touchdown run to start, huge touchdown run to end. He ends up finding the end zone. Good on him. Kenny Pickett gets some snaps. I was wondering if at some point Eagles fans were going to start doing the skull, because it did kind of start to feel like the blowout that happened against Minnesota en route to a Super Bowl win. I am going to tell you in a little bit about how I feel about this Eagles team and what I saw from the Chiefs, who I told you, I swear I told all of you, all of last week, if you're going to throw money down on a game, you throw down money on the Chiefs to beat the Bills, because I said the Bills had no chance of winning that game. Poor clock management. You can tell that Sean McDermott sat under the learning tree of Andy Reid. I don't know what the hell happened. I'm going to get to this really quick and then the comments. I don't know what the hell the Bills were thinking with just over 2 minutes. I think it was about 2 minutes and 12 seconds or 2 minutes and 20 seconds. They had the ability to run a fourth down play, and they were going to get the clock to stop regardless, right, because of the 2-minute warning. So from my thought, I was like, all right, you run a play before the 2-minute warning on fourth down. You pick it up. You pick up what's essentially a fourth timeout, right, in the 2-minute warning. You still have 3 remaining, and you have, I think it was about 45, maybe 50 yards to continue the drive. But then you're essentially assuring yourself that you're going to have the final possession of the game. You have all these timeouts. You're in great shape. They don't end up doing that. They let it tick down to the 2-minute warning. Then they call a play, and it doesn't. I don't know what Buffalo was thinking. And then you give the ball back to Mahomes. Eventually, they pick up a first down, and it's game over. You had a couple timeouts left. Great, but it didn't matter. Buffalo absolutely pissed that game away. Multiple occasions. Now, there are questions coming out from that Buffalo-Kansas City game, again, about the ball spot on the 4th and 1, where Josh Allen kind of reaches over the top. Nobody seemed to know. Well, he tried to reach over the top, pulls it back down. Nobody seemed to know if he actually got across the line. The judge at the far end came down looking like he was saying first down. The guy coming up from the bottom of the screen looked like he was coming up short, and then they kind of met in the middle, and the middle ended up skewing towards short. There are now calls for microchips to be in the ball. Friends, who has been talking about microchips in pucks, microchips in the ball? Listen, soccer has had this down with VAR, goal line technology. They have camera systems that allow them to ascertain exactly where the ball ended up as it's crossing the goal line. We are in the year 2025. If we're really that concerned, if you really don't know for sure on a close ball spot situation, why would you not have a microchip in the ball? Why would you not have it somehow connected to the chain gang, right, and know exactly whether or not it's a first down or not? Why are we allowing a judgment call to potentially alter the AFC representative in the Super Bowl? These are questions I have, but it doesn't matter because I told you the Chiefs and the Eagles were going to go to the Super Bowl. And so here we are, my friends. Okay. I'm going to go out to the comments, and then I got to show you some of the aftermath of this game as well because it's been hilarious. There were some wild things happening on Broad Street. We're going to get to all of it. All right, let's go over here. Chris Freed says, Jalen Hurts has broken the Elway curse. No first-time losing quarterback in a Super Bowl has returned as a starter in the Super Bowl since Elway. That is until Hurts does it in 2 weeks. That broke a 19-year streak. 19 years that a losing quarterback in the Super Bowl failed to get back to another Super Bowl in his career. 19 years. That's absurd. Good for Jalen Hurts. Hurts also becomes the first quarterback in Eagles history to lead this team to 2 or more Super Bowls. Donovan McNabb never did it. We love Nick Foles. He never did it. Carson Wentz certainly never did it. Randall Cunningham, Ron Jaworski, never did it. It all came down to Jalen Hurts. Oh, I wonder what the national media pundits are going to say. We're going to break all that down on Wednesday's show. I'll be very interested. I saw somebody was sharing the the graphic from Get Up, I guess on Friday, where Bart Scott was the only guy on the panel of 4 who picked the Eagles. 3 others picked the Commanders. Ooh, wonder how they're feeling today. Chris Freed, also bringing some good stats here, says this is the list of the losing quarterbacks that never made it back. Chandler, McNair, Collins, Gannon, Jake Daylight coming, you gotta Delhomme. McNabb, Hasselbeck, Grossman, Kaepernick, Newton, Ryan, Goff, Garoppolo, Burrow, and Purdy. Ain't that Purdy. Anyway, Chris Freed continuing. Wow, the stat team today. Eagles tend to make the Super Bowl after Republicans win the White House, 1980, 2004, 2024. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that I had somebody in my life send me a text last week. And like, if we're looking to politics for anything, the last time Trump was in the White House, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I said, that is right. Yeah, I mean, that is true. So listen, if you're holding on to superstition, if you're holding on to historical trends, that is true. So we will see. Nico checks in here with a Fly Eagles Fly. Andrew Fawcett dropping a good morning over to Nico, but we get lots of exciting people. Greg Bondarenko over on YouTube says, good morning, all. Damn, that was fun yesterday. Ford says, remember what I said, the Birds would need to get the passing game going too? Yup. Well, I mean, Ford, in fairness, the first touch of the game. Saquon Barkley takes it to the house, gives the Eagles a lead. I mean, they had 7 rushing touchdowns. I mean, the passing game was great, and the passing game had some big moments.
But the running game also had a lot to do with the outcome of that game.
I did tell you guys last week that I thought you would probably see Jalen Hurts try to get A.J. Brown going and certainly try to prove himself through the air, and that happened in this game. A.J. Brown ends up with a touchdown, 96 yards on it, 6 receptions. Excellent performance by A.J. Brown. Did exactly what you need your number one wideout to do. And as I mentioned, Devontae Smith, who's kind of like your 1A receiver, had a massive catch of his own, had some good moments in this game. It's almost, if we're being honest, can we have a moment of honesty? If we're being honest, a big thing about this Eagles team is that you're constantly reminded that guys on this team take lesser roles or take lesser stats for the good of the group. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith could be the number one receiver on many teams in the National Football League. They could go out and get massive crooked stats each and every week. They could set personal records. They could very well put themselves in contention just based on stats alone to have, I don't know, maybe a Hall of Fame case down the line. And yet those two have reached a point where winning is the ultimate goal, that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown aren't selfishly crashing this team, demanding the ball more. Jalen Hurts, as we've talked about pretty much ad nauseum at this point, which I do try to be careful with because of the stomach flu that was going through, or the stomach bug that was going through our house. And there's a lot of nauseum in this house. I will point out that Jalen Hurts could theoretically go out there and throw for 300 yards every week. But in doing so, he might turn the ball over a bit. And instead, he played a very conservative game, took his shots when it made sense, multiple times on the telecast. This is one of those things that you come back and you're happy to have Tom Brady's insight on this as the greatest QB to ever play the game, the winningest quarterback, the guy who held more Lombardi trophies than any other quarterback in the league's history. There were times in this game where Tom Brady would note Jalen had Devontae Smith open, or he had a one-on-one opportunity down the field with A.J. Brown, and he said sometimes you just got to let that one go. But then would note what the coverage looked like, would then kind of note or imply Hurts just knows he doesn't have to take those shots right now. He's not going to jeopardize possession on the off chance of making that work. Why? Because the Eagles were so dominant on the ground. The Commanders lost their best run-stuffing defensive lineman prior to this game. It was known that he wasn't going to be in there. You kind of thought you were going to get to eat in the running game anyway, and it came to fruition. This isn't a surprise. Again, I'm not dropping any kind of deep thoughts here on your head. We're just kind of going back over things. But Brady, I think, by the end of this game, kind of had this acknowledgement. This dude just wins. He does whatever it takes to win. He takes care of the ball. And I think I said to you guys last week, what ultimately is going to separate the Eagles and the Commanders? And in theory, it should be turnovers. If you once again limit your turnovers, if you're able to force takeaways and give your offense more possessions and you're able to go down the field and execute and score, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up outscoring the opposition. You're going to have more possessions, and you're ultimately going to be the better team. It's not that complicated. And this game, it truly wasn't that complicated. You forced a bunch of takeaways. You converted. You scored on the possessions following those giveaways. That makes all the difference in the world. That is what ultimately leads to a 32-point win, even though there were moments in this game that felt a little bit more like, not ideal. There was no point in this game where I felt like Jayden Daniels was going to win it or that the Commanders were going to win it. But there were a couple of moments where I was like, I don't like how close it is. I don't like how you're allowing Washington to remain in, which again is why I said that 4th and 5, that dart down the left sideline to A.J. Brown on a 4th and 5 in the first half, that play to me set the tone and kind of reestablished, this team is on a whole other level. Okay, we're going to keep going. Let's see. Ford asks a good question. Who actually here believes the Eagles will, not can, but will beat the Chiefs? And why? Ooh. Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to win. But we'll get there a little bit later on. I think this is the most confident I felt about an Eagles team that has ever made the Super Bowl. I feel more confident about this team than I did the one that Donovan McNabb led the Eagles to and then T.O. returned for. Feel significantly more confident than taking on the Brady dynasty at that point. And also, we didn't know what T.O. was going to look like, and he was such a critical piece of that offense. Remember, they had to go find a guy on a construction site who had taken snaps long ago to be a backup tight end for the Eagles in the Super Bowl to take place of Chad Lewis. So, there were some actual significant questions going into that one. You go back to when Nick Foles won the Eagles a Super Bowl, led them to an incredible performance. We all, despite the fact that Nick Foles did very well in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl, we all had the question, can he keep up with Tom Brady? Does he have the ability to go out there and put up touchdown for touchdown, to continue to match the score? Even if you thought the Eagles' defense that year was good, which it was, you knew that Tom Brady was a different beast. And then you go back to 2 years ago, and I look at this defense, specifically this defensive coordinator versus the one from 2 years ago, Gannon, who was also halfway out the door with a job offer from Arizona essentially on the table. I don't think it's even close. I have never felt this confident about an Eagles team heading to a Super Bowl. Now, does that mean I'm going to guarantee it and put my life savings and my house on it? No. But do I feel significantly better about this team? There is no general concern that I have. The only thing that I can think of, and we'll get there a little bit later on in the show, is that, look, if you watch the Kansas City-Buffalo game, there were definitely moments in that game where you go, Mahomes still has it. It's not like anybody thought he lost his fastball. I don't think Travis Kelce's the same guy. I don't think they have the same level of game breakers that they used to, but that team still finds a way to win. They won a ton of one-possession games. I think they had the most wins of any team that was within, 2 or 3 points by the end. It was crazy. They won a lot of closely contested games. Now, there are going to be people who are going to point out that they think that the league has the fix in and that the refs do everything they can to make calls for Mahomes, and they make calls because they want to see Kansas City have the chance to go for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl win and maybe even get it. Not even in the Brady dynasty did the Patriots ever win 3 in a row. I'm not going to allow myself to kind of fall prey to that line of thinking. But what I will tell you is that, there are holes on that Patriots team. There were holes on that Bills team as well. Even though I knew the Bills weren't going to win, I was licking my chops about the possibility of this Eagles team taking on that Bills team. But I think the Chiefs are a beatable team. I think they're a very good team, and I think ultimately, again, it could be a one-possession game. But, there's nothing right now that makes me think, the Eagles are in deep doo-doo when it comes to X, Y, or Z from the Chiefs. I just don't see it. You guys might feel differently, and you certainly can let me know, but it's sort of where I'm at. Jim Cochran says, I'm glad the Chiefs won. Eagles toppled the Goliath Brady in 2017. Time to do the same to Mahomes in 2025. It's a revenge game. If you think back to 2017, that was, in a sense, a revenge game against Tom Brady. Sure, it wasn't the same team. It wasn't the same quarterback. It was a different thing. It was more of an organizational revenge game. In this case, it's a different story. You have a bunch of guys who remember the sod father and who remember how things fell apart and remember how the footing was absolute crap and how that neutralized an absolutely potent Eagles pass rush from that entire season. They were an incredible team at getting to the quarterback and collapsing pockets. They couldn't get their footing underneath them. This certainly seems different unless the sod father is going to show up and work his black magic again on the, is he going to like do some voodoo magic? I mean, I know it's down in New Orleans, and I know they got the Mardi Gras. Is Baron Samedi going to show up? Ooh, I don't know if he can do anything with the grass, but you got to be careful. Everybody be careful out there. Be careful down there in New Orleans leading up. But, like, I feel significantly better. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm nuts. Excuse me. Chris Freed says, my initial thoughts, Kansas City likely wins by 4, and there's a chance that this game can get away from the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles are getting blown out in this game. I have run this. I've been like, remember Doctor Strange runs like the millions of different potential outcomes of how to beat Thanos, and then he finds the one, and it happens to be the one in which they live, the universe in which they live. That's me right now. I have run the millions of scenarios, and very, very few of them lead to a Chiefs blowout win. I shan't speak into existence the only way that I think that the Chiefs could legitimately blow out this Eagles team. It would have to be out of the Eagles' control. You would have had to effectively like tempt the injury gods. That's the only way. If this Eagles team is remotely healthy, you're not getting blown out. I just don't think they have it in them. I think this team is built entirely differently. And if you are legitimately concerned about Patrick Mahomes, I get it. If you are legitimately concerned about trying to dethrone a team that is trying to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl, I get it. I don't see a blowout for the Chiefs. Could the Eagles blow out the Chiefs, on the other hand? I think there are more scenarios where that's potentially in play. Listen, Saquon Barkley is the ultimate X factor. For as many times as we have gone out of our way to give the guy credit, he is playing on an entirely different level. It's almost like playing Madden with like the difficulty set to easy. Sometimes it looks like Saquon Barkley is being controlled by a veteran player of the game, and the opposition is being played by like the little brother who challenges the big brother to a game, or to the kid who challenges the dad to a game of Madden. And at some point, the dad eventually feels bad and stops running up the score. That's what it looks like a lot of weeks with Saquon Barkley. I just don't see a blowout. I don't see a Chiefs blowout. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't been. To this point, I have not been, so I like my track record. Let's see. I see some hockey trade stuff that I don't think we're going to get to, but maybe very late in the show. Today is definitely an Eagles celebration show. Christian over on YouTube says, honestly, I think the Eagles are in a better position to win than 2 years ago. Chiefs haven't looked stellar. Saquon being the X factor going out to give Spags a lot to think about. I mean, it's true. Now, if there's one guy who's great at at covering up blitz packages and disguising coverage, it is definitely Spags. You saw him absolutely mess with Josh Allen multiple times in that AFC Championship game. Makes it look like pressure's coming from one way. It ends up blowing through the other side. Josh Allen's flushed out of the pocket, sacked. Not ideal. And that's a mobile quarterback. This will be an ultimate game that's going to test Jalen Hurts. But in fairness, the last time Jalen Hurts went up against Spags and went up against him in the playoffs, he played as well as Patrick Mahomes, something better. That one awful fumble that went the other way notwithstanding. Hurts then went back out and made up for it, so I don't know. Let's see. Jim Cochran agrees with me on the side father. Says at least we won't have to worry about the field falling apart beneath their feet this time. Jamie checks in over on YouTube. Great game yesterday for the next man up mentality between Burks and Dickerson and Juergens. 100% agreed. Allison says, assuming all Russ is going to talk about today are the Eagles. Probably. Do we have to get to like the Flyers and people being upset about a Mikko Rantanen trade that the Flyers simply just like we're not going to make? Should not have made? Probably. Unless it... Maybe there's one scenario. Yeah. Nah, I don't see it. People were upset, but I don't see it. Maybe very late in the game we'll get to the hockey stuff. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see. We're going to keep going over here. Andrew Fawcett. I don't know who he was replying to, but he says, I can't hate Mahomes. I can hate Kelsey, but not Mahomes. Oh, no. Mahomes is hateable. Mahomes has definitely crossed into hateable. When you win as much as he has, and you flop the way that he does, and you get calls the way that he does, no. He's crossed over into being a hateable player. Even Allison, who's not even a football fan, said that she's sick of hearing about the Chiefs, which means Allison, who is a Philadelphia fan, will certainly back the Eagles in this game. Has to. Chris Freed says Kansas City are like the 1990 Yankees and Bulls, the 80s Islanders, 70s Canadiens and Steelers, 60s Packers, and Celtics, and the 50s Yankees. Oh, the Celtics are also interesting. This is just a real quick nugget. I don't know if you guys have heard this since last night. Bill Simmons over on the Ringer Podcast Network. Bill Simmons noted that apparently in the prospective buyers of the Boston Celtics, I think they're down to like 4 or 5 prospective ownership groups, potential ownership groups. Jeffrey Lurie is one of them. Boy, I would like to know how people would feel about Jeffrey Lurie owning the Celtics. I mean, a lot of people were very upset when Josh Harris went and bought the Commanders. They were sort of upset, but maybe less or so when he went and bought the New Jersey Devils. How would you feel if Jeffrey Lurie, who many view as the best owner in the city, how would you feel if Jeffrey Lurie went out and bought the Celtics? Oh boy. Would he be less loved, or would people say, you know what, he's from there. He's led us to multiple Super Bowls. He continues to invest in the team, give them all the tools. Do you feel like he's going to be able to give that same attention if he has a second team? These are all questions that we might ask someday. It has not yet happened, but Jeffrey Lurie, what are you doing, Jeffrey? Don't buy the Celtics. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Maybe it's a leverage play. Maybe he buys the Celtics, and then he and Josh Harris flip the teams. So then Jeffrey Lurie sells the Celtics to Josh Harris, and Josh Harris sells the Sixers to Jeffrey Lurie, and then Jeffrey Lurie owns 2 of the teams in town. No, probably not. Very unlikely. Okay. We're going to keep going. Let's see. Jamie Rollo says the Bills were still in the game with horrible defense. The fact that they were in the game with horrible defense still gives me hope. I agree. I think that is an actual thing. Legitimately. Allison asks how the son feels. He is way better today. I tweeted this out yesterday. So like I mentioned, we had like the stomach flu, I keep saying the two together. The flu and a stomach bug going through our house. My poor little girl. She's been taking care of her for days. She seems to be on the way back, which is awesome. The flu sucks. Then my oldest gets this stomach bug on Saturday night, and he is just deathly ill all Saturday night. My wife and I are trading off like 10, 15-minute spurts to go check in on our daughter, who's hacking up along with the flu, the son who now is expelling his meals from his face. And then the 2-year-old keeps waking up screaming in the middle of the night. The only kid who didn't cause us problems this weekend, at least sleepy time Saturday into Sunday, was our 8-year-old, who gets a special shout out because he caused us no problems. So good job, buddy. But the rest of them, I mean, it was an absolutely horrible Saturday night. But all the kids wanted to do, and especially my son who was very sick, the only thing he really wanted to be able to do on Sunday was watch the Eagles game. So we got the iPad, popped on YouTube TV, took it up to him. And as he's like sitting there kind of trying to sip chicken broth around game time, he gets to watch the Eagles game. And then it depended, but like I turned off the latency delay on YouTube TV on the TV in the living room. And so for a little bit we were ahead of him, and then I kind of paused it, and then he got ahead of us, and it was fine. So we like watched it mostly as a family, and he was watching it from up in his room, but he seems to be doing way better today. Fingers crossed that was just a 24-hour thing, but thank you for asking. It is very kind of you. For noting. I mean, I feel like we got lucky because around Christmas, everybody I knew had the stomach bug going through their family, and we somehow avoided it. It's okay. And London Joseph says, Russ is running a MASH unit at his house. Hope everyone's feeling better. We are. So thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Let me see. Henry 3000 says, yes, finally catching a live one. Let's go. Okay. Let's see. Sean C. about Lattimore. So A.J. Brown and Lattimore get into it on the field, right? And Lattimore ends up getting a flag for unnecessary roughness. And there was a point in it, right, where A.J. Brown kind of like palm heels the helmet back off of Lattimore a bit. And then it looked like Lattimore was trying to take A.J.'s helmet off as well. And A.J. actually grabs his own helmet, pulls it back on because he knows you don't want to end up with the, what the hell is it, the personal foul or whatever? I think it's personal foul, right, when you take your helmet off in the field of play. So he's like, you're not even going to get me on that. He pulls it back on. You see A.J. Brown was just messing with the dude. Lattimore, by the way, after the game, kind of took it on the chin. I saw a quote that he put out where he was like, look, you can't win if you turn over the ball more to that team. Had we not turned the ball over, maybe it's a closer game. Maybe. Let's see. Why is Rand Spear making an appearance in the comments or something? Where Rand Spear, the 95. What? I don't know. I missed whatever happened over there. Okay. Landon Joseph wants me to tell either Kevin Kincaid or John Kincaid. I can talk to Kevin Kincaid. John Kincaid. The last time he and I interacted on Twitter, he tried to big time me about working for the Thrashers or something. I don't know. Says, tell Kincaid the Eagles are winning by playing football like your boomer uncle and Seth Joyner always talk about, running the ball and defense. Saquon actually said post-game, it was going into the game. The quote was put up on the screen during the game, that this Eagles team just wants to prove to the league that you can still win and still advance deep into the playoffs by pounding the rock, by running the football. They did it again. Legitimately fantastic. Greg Bondarenko highlighting one of the best moments of the game. And I would love to play it here. I don't want the video to get taken down. And I don't know what the rule is on it. Do I risk it? I don't know. But there's the moment in the game where the Eagles are lined up for a tush push. And there are multiple encroachments. Luvu jumps over the line with a beautiful flying clothesline that would make Logan Paul proud, right? Almost looked like the phenomenal forearm from AJ Styles, but he goes up and over, almost like a flying lariat to Jalen Hurts' dome. And they call encroachment because, of course, yes, he jumped before the ball was snapped and banged into the opposition. So, okay. They go out and they run the play again, and it's another encroachment, at which point the referee notes that Washington has been informed that if it happens again, we are going to, it's going to be a personal foul. And then after that happens, the Commanders jump yet again. And when the Commanders jump the next time, they say, we have now informed the Commanders that it's at our discretion. If this happens again, we can award a touchdown to the Eagles. Now, I don't think this violates any kind of rights issues here with the NFL. And if anybody ever comes after this video for this very beautiful clip that comes courtesy of the NFL's Twitter account, it does not show game footage. It is merely to get the audio of the referee. This is what happened. Remember, after the Eagles have gotten encroached upon twice, Luvu going over the top, there's another encroachment on the defensive line where actually a guy on the right side of the line jumps offside, comes back, and then the left side of the line kind of collapses and encroaches. Here's what the refs said. I've never heard this call in my entire life. Fantastic stuff. Here we go.
Washington has been advised that at some point the referee can award a score if this type of behavior happens again. For now, it's a replay of second down.
So again, 3 encroachments in a row, twice because Luvu jumped over the line and made contact with Hurts. Totally fine. By the way, I don't think he's a dirty player for trying it. It was a critical play in the game, right? It's an 11-point game with 12 minutes and 35 seconds left in the game. That's why I said to you in the very beginning, it never felt like a 32-point win. This is why. It was still a double-digit lead, and you were knocking at the doorstep. You're still knocking at the doorstep. But you have this other encroachment that happens that's not Luvu, and then this, I forget what Mike Pereira called it. He actually had the name for it. And it was the most bonkers thing. He's like, yeah, in page blah, 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 section blah, 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 line blah, 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 point 3A625.4-3. the refs can just give you a score if the opposition keeps acting goofy. Now, the Commanders on the radio call, because Nick Picone is always the guy who goes out and does the clipping on Twitter of the opposition on radio or TV, the opposing commentators remarking about the game. They're like, well, they're just trying to stop the score. Like, what are they supposed to do? Just let them in? And I understand the sentiment, and I don't think they're wrong, but I was mesmerized by what happened. Because again, whatever Mike Pereira called it, I have never in my life heard that before. That they can award a score based on repeated behavior. Now, I said at the time, and I tweeted out at the time, that to me was a message to Kansas City. Now, mind you, the Eagles game wasn't over. Mind you, that the Eagles were still a bit away, right? 12-ish minutes away from advancing to the Super Bowl. Mind you, the AFC Championship had not gone down. I said that play was a message to Kansas City. That play, messing with the timing on the tush push at the goal line, was a direct shot to the Chiefs. Oh, just so you guys know, we're 12 minutes away from heading to New Orleans for Super Bowl 59, and we know that you guys still have to handle business, but let's be honest. Josh Allen and that Bills team aren't going to beat you. We'll see you guys. 3 consecutive Super Bowls on the line for you. Revenge for the injustice we suffered at the hands of the sod father 2 years ago. We're going to see you guys in 2 weeks. And if you think you can just send home slice over the top on the goal line, good luck. You think that you can try to time the count? Your defensive line's going to collapse and encroach. Good luck, Spags. That to me was a direct shot to the Chiefs. Now, will it come to pass that the Eagles are going to have to rely on tush push after tush push in the Super Bowl? I don't know. Will it happen? I don't know. Jamie Rollo with the betting insight. Only 1.5 favorites, 1.5 point favorites as returning champs, the Chiefs. And number 1 record in the NFL. Not bad, actually. I am not surprised that the Chiefs are favored in this game. I am not surprised. If you are, take into account that the Chiefs have had a sensational season. They have a track record of winning, and they are, again, en route to their 3rd straight Super Bowl with the only roadblock remaining, the Philadelphia Eagles team that just curb stomped a Commanders team that had pulled off upset after upset after upset to even get to the NFC Championship game. I am not surprised in the least bit that the Chiefs are favored in this game. And I actually think that there was a good chance that Buffalo was going to be favored as well if they had gotten through, even though I think at that point it probably should have been an Eagles line. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to get. HC says, if all you talking heads keep singing Hurts praises, he won't play as well, and he would if you keep doubting him. All right, so we have to go out of our way to lie and say that we think he stinks. I can't do it. I can't do it. HC points out that I'm a talking head. Yes, but I can't. I've been telling you guys, the guy just knows how to win. He does everything it takes to win these games. Jaden Daniels had a really good game. Jaden Daniels threw for more yards. Jaden Daniels had more completions, more passing attempts. I don't know if you noticed or not. Jaden Daniels is also going home. I know that it kind of triggers some people, especially in the Twitterverse, but just because you put up better individual stats does not mean that you win the game, because they did not win the game. The Eagles did. Nico with a funny point here. Sixers social media still hasn't posted a congratulations to the Eagles. Yeah, I got to think that that poor intern, that poor social media intern doesn't want to cross the owner, doesn't want to upset Josh Harris more than he probably already is. Again, moral victories, you can take them or leave them, but the Commanders should be proud of what they accomplished. Sean C. says, my favorite footage from Broad Street was Paul George in his car stuck in the crowd. Paul George was, and so was the Commanders team bus. I don't know how that happened. I legitimately have no idea how these guys ended up on Broad, but I am going to show you really quickly. Paul George, I don't know how he didn't know this was going to happen. The guy's been living in town. I mean, sure, he hasn't been around for a lot of championships, but, here's poor Paul George. The guy just wants to get home or get to wherever he's going. Poor Paul George. He just out on Broad Street. Doesn't have a tinted windshield. Everybody knows who he is. He acknowledges the people, right? But like at the same time, you probably just want to get home at that point. But Paul George got to see how psychotic this fan base is if you advance to a championship game. The Sixers are not having a particularly good year. They've not been able to stay healthy. Does this maybe help Paul George say, you know what? We're going to try to turn it around. Or you know what? I'm going to keep my chin up because next year is going to be the year that we stay healthy and we're going to have a parade like this. Or we're going to have the people in the streets after we beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is going to be us. We're going to be the ones to do this. I don't know. Really don't know. Let's see. I got to skip past a bunch of stuff because we are very far behind on comments. But Nico also says, I think the Eagles will win because of the power of friendship. Sean C. noting about the feeling anxious said, I was, even up 19, I was still anxious. I don't think anybody felt particularly awesome until very late in the fourth quarter. And obviously when Kenny Pickett and Will Shipley come in and Shipley busts open that big run, well, then it's a party, right? Then it feels like the game against Minnesota and the NFC Championship game that led you to the Super Bowl in 2017, and you end up going on to win it. I was at that game. There was a palpable feeling in the crowd. Now, that lasted a lot longer. We pretty much knew from the opening kickoff that the Eagles were going to go to the Super Bowl that year because that Minnesota team was wildly overmatched. But I do think that like late in this one, people started to at least be able to take a deep breath. Jamie says, if Kellen takes the Saints job, good riddance, no sane person should take that job. I don't know. Is that being rumored today? I mean, listen, if Kellen Moore ends up taking a job elsewhere, I don't blame him, right? Because I don't think a lot of guys get into this league to just become a coordinator and remain a coordinator from now until forever. If it were me and I were him, I would probably wait. I would probably hold off. I don't think I would take that Saints job. I think I'd go back to being the Eagles OC one more year. If you can win a Super Bowl this year as the offensive coordinator, he's going to get a lot of flowers. It's going to continue to raise his stock. If you take that Saints job, to me, that's like a little bit of a desperation job. If you're Kellen Moore, wait a year, potentially win a Super Bowl this year, have another successful year next year. Who knows? Maybe there's another Super Bowl appearance down the line. And then like have your choice of jobs next year. By all accounts, it sounds like Kellen Moore really wanted that Cowboys job and was shocked and kind of disgusted that, Brian Schottenheimer got the job. Now, Ian Rappaport put out on Twitter last night, Eagles are on to the Super Bowl. Saints coaching search will now accelerate. They plan to conduct an in-person interview with Kellen Moore and will likely fly to Philly as soon as Monday to meet with him, sources tell the insiders. All right, so it's not ideal. But you do have 2 weeks. I don't mind if he takes an interview now. I don't want him having a second interview like 2 days before the game. Can we at least agree that that would be nonsensical? If you want to get an interview in 2 weeks out, fine. But again, I don't know why you would take that job. I get that everybody wants to be a head coach again. If you help this team get to a Super Bowl, whether you win or not, and then you go back to being the Eagles OC again next year, guess what? Unless the offense looks like dog doo-doo next year, you're still going to have your choice of jobs. You're still going to be one of the top candidates. Why go after the last one? I don't see it. I could be wrong. We're going to go back over here. Amadeo, running with a thing that I've seen a lot of people going with, all my fellow pro wrestling fans, saying that the Eagles have to finish the story like Cody Rhodes did at WrestleMania in Philadelphia. I was there night one when I watched Cody Rhodes get pinned by The Rock. But the following night, I don't know who the Undertaker's supposed to be in this scenario, to come out and choke slam The Rock. I don't know who that's going to be. But okay. Is B-Doc going to come out and like throat punch Priest Holmes? I don't think so. I don't know what the apt comparison is going to be, but like I'm not a big Cody Rhodes fan. Certainly not a fan of this current run, as you can hear each and every week on Thursday on It's Just Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. I don't love the finish the story thing, but I guess we could do that. Although, the difference, of course, is that Cody Rhodes had never won the championship, and this was the first time that he got to hoist the WWE championship that his dad never was able to, except for the one time at MSG, but then they took it back. They took it away from him. The Eagles have won a Super Bowl before, so I don't know if it's exactly an apt comparison, but here we are. Okay, fine. Going back to the microchips for a second here, AJ says, look, if we put microchips in balls, how are we going to fudge the numbers to get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl? I mean, listen, Bills fans are going to be very loud and vocal about it for the next few days. 100%. They're going to be all in on the idea that there should be microchips in the balls. Dirk says, Saquon doesn't just want to win. He wants to embarrass teams. There was a beautiful moment post-game. I don't know if I'll be able to find it here quickly enough. There's like this really nice picture of Saquon and his daughter on the field. And here we go. We could just go to the, hold on. We'll go to the video over here. The Eagles put this out. Now, there is a picture that was going around. The picture was like an absolutely great shot. But this is Saquon and his family. Here we go. This is them after the game. And if you remember, it was Saquon and his daughter over here that he's holding. It's a picture of them from up above is the one that I was referring to. But here he is with family, right? Saquon's daughter, if you remember, when he was asked in the offseason about like signing with the Eagles and then telling his family, his daughter asked the question, does that mean we get to win now? Which was an absolutely brutal shot at the Giants. She probably didn't mean it to be, but a brutal shot at the Giants. Almost like the Giants president, GM, when his son is like sitting on the couch and he says, who should I draft? And he goes, trade up for Jayden Daniels. If you only get one chance at this job, you may as well try to win. I mean, that was an absolutely lethal shot by the son. In this case, Saquon's daughter, she was right. Does this mean we actually get to win? Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, while I'm on the idea of like, people taking shots at New York or things happening in New York related to the Eagles, you might have missed this, but this was a beautiful moment. The Empire State Building put out a tweet. They lit up green for the Eagles. I want you to see the tweet, though. So it says, I'm sorry, I have to do this. Shining in Eagles colors in honor of their NFC Championship win. And then after facing a lot of criticism, they respond to themselves, we will light for the AFC Championship at the conclusion of that game. The Eagles respond to the Empire State Building. Green looks good on you, Empire State Building. I saw people in the comments, though, going,
Well, I don't know. Would Philadelphia ever?
Oh, here it is. This is the tweet right here. Hold on, let me pull this one up. It goes, 0% chance Philly would ever do this for a New York team. Disgraceful. In fairness, what building is Philadelphia going to light up that's as well known as the Empire State Building? Is like, are we going to put like a Giants beanie on the Billy Penn statue? No. Are we talking about like lighting up City Hall in New York colors? We got to put like pinstripes? Now listen, I don't expect the Phillies to have a good year. If the Yankees play the Dodgers, I will cheer for the Yankees in the World Series. I will. I would actually petition for pinstripes on City Hall if the Yankees beat the Dodgers, because I hate what the Dodgers have done to Major League Baseball. I think Rob Manfred has absolutely zero cojones, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter right now. There is no building to light up with the same kind of national or international profile. Now, Steven with a good point here says we can continue to thank the Giants for Barkley. Listen, if the Eagles win, the organization should at least send an edible arrangements to John Mara, who said he would be sick if Saquon went to the Eagles. You have to send him an edible arrangement. You need to send probably, like we could go like old school here. During Prohibition, the Yingling family, who definitely had the brewery shut down during Prohibition. Once Prohibition got lifted, a couple cases of beer just magically ended up at the White House. But again, no one knows how because the brewery definitely wasn't in service during Prohibition. I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe do you send some of Philly's finest things up to New York as a, hey, thanks again, guys. That was great. Maybe they should do it now. Maybe you should give something to the Giants to thank them for the gift that keeps on giving Saquon Barkley. Let me see. Oh, this is a good one. Sean C. says, my Chiefs hate is more Andy Reid-centric. He ruined my childhood. It's crazy. I said this to my wife last night. It's wild that Andy Reid had a full coaching career with the Eagles, became the all-time winningest coach in franchise history, went on to the Chiefs and has had a second full run, full career, and is the winningest coach in Chiefs history. Like, that is absolutely wild. Wild. Amadeo says, Kansas City is to Buffalo like New England was to Pittsburgh. I could see it. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad comparison. Yeah. All right, we can roll with it. I'm fine there. Chris Freed asks, how did Andy Reid ruin your childhood? Did he steal your nuggies? He might have. Well, I think if Andy saw any nuggies back in his Eagles days, he probably was going to steal those. I'll have to ask Bundy tonight on Press Row Show if Hitch would have stolen the nuggies too. I think we know the answer to that. Let's see. Going back to the touchdown thing that the refs could essentially give the Eagles a touchdown, Dede said. Would have never known that rule existed. That's crazy. Josh wanted to see them award the touchdown and give the ball for the head ref for his first career touchdown. That actually is a good question, though. Like, if they had given the touchdown to the Eagles, what happens? Who gets credit for the touchdown? Did they give it to Hurts because he's the one who has the ball, who snaps the ball? Is it a team touchdown? Like, how does that work? All right. I think I'm mostly caught up on comments here. So, I'm good there. Let's see. Okay. Now, there were a few other things that happened after this game that I found heartwarming. And notably, it was everything that happened on the field, or off the field, and on Broad Street. Broad Street was absolutely bananagrams again, and it included one of the weirdest things I have ever seen happen. Now, I don't remember if this was on Broad. No, this was at Frankfurt and Cotman. The Philly captain tweeted this out. I'm going to lower the volume here because of what happens within the contents of this video. But something very weird happened at Frankfurt and Cotman. Now, if you saw the videos from Broad Street, you'll know that there were people setting off fireworks. Well, Philly does things differently in different parts of the city, and while Broad Street was lit up by fireworks, over at Frankfurt and Cotman, I just want you to see, and you might actually be able to see it as soon as I pull this up, this man, is he setting off a flare? Is that a firework? And what is that? All right, well, let's see what happened at Frankfurt and Cotman. Oh, hold on a second. Let's go back there. Oh!
I believe that was a gun. Dude, that was definitely a gun.
Oh, get us in the camera. Go back!
So mind you, in any other context, right? Philly captain's like, 4 rows of human beings away from this guy? And we assume that it's this guy's arm. We think it is, maybe. Not that it matters. 4 rows of people away. I mean, that very much looks like it was that guy. He sets off a pistol multiple times into the air. And it doesn't look like anybody ran. It doesn't look like anybody sprinted away. They were just like, go birds. And then it goes to that other guy who says, hey, bring the camera over here. No one cares. Go birds. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I certainly would not be very happy if somebody started popping some shots into the air. I prefer shots of fireball into the air at that point, not a pistol. Call me crazy. That is pretty wild, though. Absolutely ridiculous. Meek Mill said that he would come out to Broad Street to perform Dreams and Nightmares last night if somebody could take the speakers out. Absolutely crazy stuff. There's also there's a video that On Pattison found from Instagram of Santa, and it said Santa couldn't handle a shot on Broad Street. Let's check in on Santa Claus. How's Santa looking after last night? Here we go. All right. Well, what's he taking a shot at? What is that? Yeah, that's a good-looking Santa. Yeah, sometimes Santa just needs his fill. All right? Now, that bottle, in fairness to Santa Claus, that bottle's not an easy, manipulable bottle. There are going to be some air pockets because of the structure of that bottle. We're going to give it up to Santa. It's okay, Santa Claus. You had a great Christmas. Everybody's thrilled. Now, there are questions also coming out of the game, and I could show you more stuff from the aftermath of what was happening on Broad Street. But there is a very interesting thing that happened post-game. Brandon Graham was seen going into the tunnel. That is normal. There's nothing strange about that. He gets asked whether or not he's going to be ready to play in the Super Bowl. And some reporters and people, they get kind of close. I want you to just hear this interaction. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but Brandon Graham holding the kid up on his shoulders, got the arms wrapped up, certainly looks like the tricep working pretty well.
You doubt it? All y'all doubt it.
You coming back?
2-2? Oh my God, the sky is falling.
You coming back?
So he calls everybody out because remember, around the bye week, people like me were saying, well, this isn't good. This looks bad. Nick Sirianni, what are we doing? He says, all you doubted. And then smartly, this person with the camera asks, are you coming back for the Super Bowl? And he said, you're going to see. Now, is he talking about you're going to see if I'm going to play in the Super Bowl? Is he saying you're going to see what this team is going to do? I will throw this over to a tweet that was put out last night, and no one seems to want to confirm it, to corroborate it, but Marcus Hayes, take this with a grain of salt, Marcus Hayes tweeted out at 7:47 last night, a team source said he expects Brandon Graham to come off IR on Monday and try to get ready for Super Bowl 59. Graham told me he hasn't tested the torn triceps full bore, but what he's done showed promising results. Now, this will be something we'll talk about on Wednesday's show and maybe even on Friday's show and then maybe on next Monday and Wednesday. Should Brandon Graham test it? Yes, of course he should. He was instrumental to helping this team find a lot of the success that it did this season. Should he play a significant role if he's able to come in and play in the Super Bowl? Probably not. This defense is absolutely rolling. Sometimes you worry about if you force somebody back into the lineup, it could throw off the good juju. Now, people like Brandon Graham a lot. I'm not saying it's that. Just saying that rotations have been established. This defense looks as lethal right now as it has at any point this season. Would I like the idea potentially of Brandon Graham is going to be there, be suited up, be ready to go in if they need him? Yes. Do I want to see Brandon Graham start the Super Bowl? No, I don't. Love Brandon Graham. He was instrumental to the Eagles winning their first ever Super Bowl. I would love to see him on the active roster. If he can play at 100%, which, again, it's hard to know what kind of shape he's in since he's been out with this torn triceps. But if he can get back in there, boy, imagine if he's at 100%, we're pretty close to. Conditioning might be a little bit off, but if he's healthy and he's a backup insurance in case one of your outer rushers are able, one of your edge rushers go out or need to be spelled, oh yeah, I'm in on Brandon Graham. But you have to be really careful. Remember, in order for him to be on that active roster, for him to be on that game day roster, somebody's got to come off. Who are you taking off the game day roster? We'll talk about that. We can have that conversation later this week or even next week. Remains to be seen whether or not he'll be out there or not. But man, what an absolutely wild thing that would be if he's able to get himself back out there. That kind of a turnaround to play in the Super Bowl. And Jamie says that Zach Berman apparently speculated last night Brandon Graham may want to make the announcement on his radio show. That's a brilliant idea. It's actually very smart because you know people are going to tune in to hear him answer it. I don't think he's gone on WIP yet to express whether or not he's going to play. I am doing a really quick search here of thetwitter.com. I don't see anything right now saying that he's gone out and said it. So I think as of right now, it's not confirmed. We will see. Be awesome for him if he gets to play. Be awesome for him if he's back at 100%. 100%. Get him in there. Sean C. says Bryce Huff goes off the roster. Yo, there was a play late in the NFC Championship game. I don't have the exact play, but 100%. There was a moment in this game where the pocket was collapsing, and I swear, I went back and I watched, and I went, wait a second, is that number 0? Did I just see a Bryce Huff collapsed pocket like an almost sack of Jaden Daniels? In the year of our Lord 2025, I almost saw Bryce Huff get a sack. It almost happened. It didn't happen, but it almost happened. But yeah, he'd probably be the one to go off the roster. We'll see. Chris Freed says surgery for Brandon Graham was on November 25th. He ain't playing. Weirder things have happened. We will find out. All right. I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. A nice reaction show. I appreciate everybody who joined me live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. I will remind you that if you've not done so already, subscribe to The Russ Joy Show on YouTube. You can also find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, and wherever you get your podcasts. The audio form of the show usually goes up by around noon on the same day. So if you can't make it for the live show, or you don't like having YouTube pulled up while you're driving in the car to listen to it after the fact, you can certainly go to your favorite podcast app and you can find The Russ Joy Show wherever you get your podcasts. If you can, do me a favor, like the video, share the video, and subscribe, because that's an important thing. Many of you will talk to me, we'll interact tonight on the Press Row Show. We'll be down there for the Flyers game tonight, where I'm sure the Mikko Rantanen trade will come up. So if you were looking for takes on other teams making moves, and that was a very big trade that happened over the weekend, we can get there tonight on the Press Row Show. I think we're running with a limited squad tonight from what I hear, so we'll have to figure that one out. That is also assuming that all my kids are healthy enough for me to go. If not, it might just be Bundy and the intern tonight. We'll find out. But if you can, again, you can follow me there over on the Snow the Goalie channels. I'll be back Wednesday with this show. Thursday, It's Just Wrestling. That drops every Thursday. And then Friday, we'll be back again with the Russ Joy Show. Now, listen, these next 2 weeks are going to be wild. I have not gotten to do a 3-time-a-week show covering an Eagles run to a Super Bowl since they won it the last time, since I was doing the original Crossing broadcast with Adam Lefkoe and Kyle Scott. We certainly didn't do it the last run. That show had long disbanded. I cannot guarantee that there will be any efforts or any likelihood of getting those two guys on the same page to do a show. It would be a lot of fun leading up to the Super Bowl. Perhaps that would be the good karma that we need. Maybe you want to tweet at them and tag them both and let them know we have to bring back the 2017 crew one last time for a Super Bowl run. Maybe we'll do it. Who knows? Who's to say? But I'm looking forward to doing this for the next 2 weeks. With all of you, we will be covering everything that you need to know about the Super Bowl, and we will certainly be getting back into the other teams in town on Wednesday and on Friday. But my friends, the Eagles, once again, I explained this to my kids last night. I was like, guys, it took my entire life. That was a ton of time, right? 14-ish years, right? Doing the math. 14, 15 years of my life to see the Eagles play in a Super Bowl. That was the one that Donovan puked in. I said, since you guys have been born, the Eagles have gone to 3 Super Bowls. And 2 of those Super Bowls have happened at a time that you will be able to remember where you were when you watched them. So there you go. My friends, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will talk to all of you on Wednesday and then again on Friday. Until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy, but you figured that out already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Have a great day, everybody. Go Birds!